Hi everyone, welcome to this video. My name is Himanshu, and in this particular episode, we are gonna get into video automation and building online communities. So last night I sit with Stephen J. Pope, and he's a video automation expert, and recently he actually did $40,000 in almost 30 days. So some pretty incredible results there, and we are gonna get into his mind of how he builds his system of video automations. And as I talk about how to build an online community and how you can build a tribe around your product and your topic, we are gonna get deeper into how he is using his community and what it really takes to build a thriving online tribe. So a lot to learn in this particular episode. If you are an online entrepreneur, you are going to love this particular conversation. We had some amazing candid discussions about entrepreneurship and also content and videos. And if you are watching this video inside Digital Lifestyle Tribe, do let me know in the comment box. If you have any questions or any conversation to start with, I love to engage in. Let's get in. Yeah, I was listening to Sam and he was talking about this 10 active members thing. If you can find
Right.
these 10 members who are most engaged in the community, then this is what you are really aiming for in terms
Right.
of engagement.
I just go with the flow. I do these a lot, so I just stay in the moment and try to give the best information. And
Yeah, that's the goal. You can tell a little bit about yourself and how you ended up being in video automation. I guess you were in completely different work before it. So how did it all
yeah,
start?
sure. Oh, you want to go right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, my journey really starts. I'll give you. I've made this succinct over the years as I've been asked this question. When I was a kid, I was always an entrepreneur. I was always building stuff with technology, creating products, and trying to sell those to people. And so that was just my journey as a kid, lemonade stand, all that kind of stuff. And then I got into computers, got into software engineering. So I've been a software engineer my whole life as well, coding, and I was on the internet very early. And then I got a degree in computer science. And
Mm.
pretty much quickly after that, I started consulting, doing computer consulting, building software for people, startups, entrepreneurs. So I've really always been working with entrepreneurs as well. And then that business, I just did a lot of good work for people, and that business grew. I was on Inc. magazine's fastest growing companies. We were doing $7 million a year. And then I sold that business at a certain point for quite a few different reasons. And then I found myself in a good position in that I had just sold a company. I didn't have to worry about money per se, but I wasn't ready to retire, nor could I just retire. It wasn't like that kind of money where I could just never do another thing again.
Mm.
And so I found myself starting over, and I started a different business. But when I started that business, I really understood at this point that I needed to understand video. I needed to understand social media to grow that
Mm.
business, because my previous business had been built on like blogging and doing good work, and I had never actively marketed it. So it took longer to grow. And I didn't want that to take as long as this one or that one did. So I started getting into video and all that stuff. And then I found myself, as I was going to these lunches with people and just talking to them about business, and originally the lunch was about technology, what they could do with it. But I started getting them excited about marketing and video because I was doing all of that. And then at a certain point, like this light went off, and I was like, you know what? I think I'd rather help people with this. This is more interesting to me right now. And so I started trying to help people with video. And then through the process of doing all that video content, I ran into all the problems with it, all the organizational problems, like trying to do a lot of video. It's very chaotic. And so then I started developing the technology for that. And then that's how I ultimately built out the products that I have now. So that's the journey of my life and how I went through all of those different stages.
Very interesting. And for how long you have been doing it?
Yeah, I guess now at this point, all in all, time flies fast. I guess it's been about 4 years now. The automation piece of it has really more thrived in the last like a year and a half. Because what started happening was that I was building all this stuff and I thought it was cool. So I would make TikToks on it. I'd say, hey, check out this automation
Mm.
system. Check it out. It's pretty cool. And then a lot of those videos went viral. And then
Mm.
I was like, oh, wow, like people are interested in this. And
Yeah,
so it was
interesting.
an accident.
Yeah, this is what I am also exploring right now. So for you, the niche, I think it started to get more clear when as you went in the topic, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like it was very general to begin with, and I didn't necessarily have a lot of clarity. I still managed to sell products and do good work for my clients, but yeah, it definitely wasn't, the niche wasn't solidified. And I think that's partly, it makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways. When you look back, you're like, yeah, it makes sense that it, because you don't have as much experience.
Mm.
So as an entrepreneur, I think you always have to have a little bit of that blind faith where you just,
Yeah.
you're selling your stuff, you're doing good work for people, but you're not really there yet. And it was only when I started to meld all these different things together, when I started to have my own failures, because I kind of realized what a good content program needs. It needs really good content. Like it has to make people say, wow, I'm really glad I saw that video. You also have to have a team if you're going to have any sort of scale. You're going to
Mm.
have people that can help you. And then you're going to need some sort of organizational system to really do this properly. And so it was only through work and insight and just chewing on these things over and over again that I was able to come up with those concepts. And then once you come
Mm.
up with the concept, that allows you to sell it better. It allows you to build the product better. So it's this really interesting, I've always been fascinated with that process of just doing things, becoming more clear, and then just continually whittling through it. It's also a painful experience as well, but it's not all fun and games, but it
Definitely
is
not.
fun at the same time.
Yeah, I think I was seeing your tweet today. I was reacting to it when you were talking about this. No matter what kind of automation you have, the this has to come from the quality of content itself. So it is gonna be like the most important thing in the end.
Yeah, it is funny because like sometimes people come to me because they see the automation
Mm.
and they're not even creating content yet. And in those cases, it's probably better to start creating content like versus trying to get into all of the automation and all the systems and stuff, because it can be a real distraction depending on where you are on your video journey.
Mm.
So I have to have that duality in my message, right? Because there's a lot of products out there that, especially in the marketing space, especially in the marketing automation space, where they're promoting technology that isn't necessarily always in your best interest.
Mm.
So I have to have this duality where I'm preaching, hey, you got to have good content. Yeah, the automation is cool. It's really effective. When you need it, it changes your life, but it's not the answer to creating good content.
Mm. Yeah, it totally makes sense. It totally makes sense, especially when there is AI and people are just rushing to get more and more content every day and using all these tools. I think it's very important to have this duality. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited about all those tools as well, AI and Chat GPT. I'm experimenting with them, but never at the, I'm never going to sacrifice the quality. Now, there might be times where you sacrifice a little bit of quality as you figure things out. So there's always this
Mm.
push and pull. So in order
Yeah.
to like figure some of these tools out, maybe you create something that's not quite as good as it could have been, but you have to do some of those things to push these boundaries. So it's nuanced on how like the balance of quality and quantity and AI and automation kind of all mixed together. It's not a either or kind of thing. It's and then figuring it out so it works, and it's like the sum of the parts are greater as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. And just to talk about the numbers, so I saw your post on school and I saw you were doing pretty amazing in terms of numbers. And how was that experience? And is it the first time that happened to you, or that's consistently you were able to crack a sort of framework for creating a sustainable growth in
Yeah,
business?
yeah. So my business has gotten a lot more sustainable. There have still been ups and downs as I've figured out the product, and
Mm.
adding the community to be a driver of the revenue is new. So I was on another platform called Mighty Networks. It's a pretty popular
Yeah.
platform, but
Mm-hmm.
it's real. Number one, it's slow and sluggish, and things are separated. So it doesn't, like if you're delivering course material, it works pretty well, but it doesn't really create an engaged community. So
Mm-hmm.
like building out community and having that and figuring that piece out has definitely been new as a way to drive revenue. And it's also not my natural ability, like building community, building, like gathering people together on a mission, on a vision has never been like, that's not my strongest suit. So it's all been, that part has definitely been a journey, and a fun journey as well, to learn how to do that.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I used to think a lot about communities and even funneling, using a sort of a funnel to make community an essential part of this entire customer journey. And I have been working with a lot of startups and companies and coaches and stuff. But I think now what you were sharing, especially I think I saw your funnel in school community, and that really got stuck with me because it was, of course, it's not something very I have seen as a marketer, I have seen it before, but you implementing it and seeing that you were able to get the results out of it, that was very fascinating.
Yeah, it's been fun for me too. And I think one of the driving forces that I'm going with is that a lot of the times when people go to set up a community, the whole
Hmm.
intention is to make money from it.
Hmm.
And it's always just, it's presented as this free thing, but it, like, everyone knows that this is
Hmm.
something that's for profit. And so
Hmm.
that's why I've taken the approach of, I'm going to I'm going to make it free. I'm going to make it public. I'm going to make it as accessible as possible. I'm going to put lots of resources inside of it. And then the other thing that I'm really realizing as well is, I think if you don't have a mission and a vision
Hmm.
behind the community itself, at some point that it'll just become transactional and it won't be able
Yeah.
to sustain itself. And so, like, I'm doing video and automation and these tactical kind of things, but like at the heart of it, like before I got on video, I was afraid of video. I felt I probably wasn't reaching my true potential for a few different reasons, but a core one was because I didn't know how to communicate and I was afraid to get online.
Hmm.
And so you can see all of the stuff I built has basically been a compensation of that lacking of ability. So I went from being afraid to being the guy that's trying to help push content everywhere.
Hmm.
And so it's like I'm solving my own insecurity. So my vision is just like, how can I help people really like use, like, how can they tell effective stories and get that message to people in a modern world? And that's like the fuel. It's something a little bit deeper that I'm going to continue to share and nurture, as opposed to it just being like, hey, let's make a good video. Hey, here's content automation. How do you build
Yeah.
your content team? Those are all transactional things. So what's the bigger thing?
I think also one of the things that I was noticing in your community is people are, and this is what happens when there is a common cause that people can relate with, is they find this space to share their challenges, and in a way we get the feedback, and at the same time people find this sort of space. It used to be in Facebook groups and all these places, so that happens on Reddit as well, so that's very similar.
Yeah.
And I was seeing
Yeah.
a
It's
lot
been
of people
interesting.
sharing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's, again, it's a lot of it is new for me too, because like I'm not a community builder by heart. I know some people are, right? That's like their God-given gift. They just can build community. So it's
Yeah.
new. But it's one of those things I've always wanted to crack the nut on, because I've always been like an introverted person, solving
Mm.
problems, inventing things and like rallying people around something. But it has also been interesting to me as well, is like, when we create these things, we often have insecurities about this person like this topic, or with this person like this topic, or, and so if you think about like the things that I'm doing, like a lot of my, like the people in the community, they're not really interested in all the automation and chat GPT and stuff like that, because they're just getting on video, and maybe they're not even technical, and maybe some of that stuff is actually just not at all what they're interested in. But people can find what they want inside of these communities. And so I was worried about mixing free and paid and this topic and that topic. And then I
Mm.
just let all that go. And it's just working just fine.
Yeah. Yeah. That really makes sense because I think this is what I have also implemented with one of the clients, and I have seen one of the person I was learning online course creation and all that funnels with. I think paid people who are more loyal, I think there is no problem in from them to share something with the free, it doesn't really matter, because that's eventually that's your cause, and that's they are relating with the mission. So that's like the primary focus of community part itself.
Yeah, of course I could always think of, there are certain situations where maybe it won't work, like
Hmm.
you're creating this real exclusive thing where only these people can get
Yeah.
together, and it's super private and there's nothing to be shared and all that. So there's obviously places where it might not work. But then I started also thinking about like when I went to school, like a real school.
Mm.
And it was like there's all these different classrooms, and there's the advanced and there's the beginner and the intermediate, and they go to their rooms, but then when they come out they're still talking, and the beginners are talking to the advanced. And
Yeah.
so even in the real world, that's how it works. And I remember when I was going to a music school, I would go to the advanced room and I would just look in the window and I would look into the studio and see all the super professional kids in there playing. And
Mm.
that was valuable.
Interesting. And so, how can you tell more about video at automation part? Like, how does this exactly work? And let's say, because a lot of people in my audience, they are into coaching and consulting. How does exactly that can help them, especially in client acquisition? And what are like other elements that you have discovered where it can be more
Yeah.
helpful?
Yeah. So like in the sense of like client acquisition itself, it only helps in that if you're creating good content and if you have a good, strong funnel, the fact that
Mm.
you can create and produce more and distribute more effectively is going
Yeah.
to give you more reach. So like
Mm.
from a client acquisition standpoint, like being able to create video and make sure you use it as best as possible. Like if I post something into a school community, what's
Mm.
the mechanism that will help me remember to post that into 3 or 4 different communities, maybe in 1 or 2 weeks down the line, so that you can really just get this stuff out there and make sure that it's getting done, like checking the boxes. So you're really using everything. So that's from like a client acquisition standpoint. But
Mm.
the automation itself is more just like an efficiency thing. So like when you start to create a lot of video, or even when you're just doing a little bit, like it's a pain. Like you're creating
Yeah.
folders, you've got links everywhere. So that's even at a small scale. It just becomes annoying.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
the more annoying something is, the less likely you are to do it. And then when you start to really scale up, like you're producing hundreds of videos a week, and
Mm.
just I should note as well, like a lot of the clients that actually purchase that automation platform, they're like video agencies. So like they have to be super organized in order to fulfill it. So coaches and consultants and people building video for themselves buy it, but it's also attracting people that are, it's actually their core business. So
Yeah.
so at the core of it, it's just like, how do you stay hyper organized and create all the containers for everything, so that you don't have to think about any of that stuff, so that when you want to go access a video, you just click it and it's there. And then it becomes like automating the workflow. So like, where do you want all of this? Who's involved? What team members? When is video going to be published? So that you can
Mm.
make sure that person is notified, so that they know when it's due. And then once it's done, like, where's it going to go? Is it going to go to this community, that community? Is it going to YouTube? Is it going to TikTok? Is it going to Facebook? So it's setting yourself up. And when you organize things, creating those workflows, they can now be more complex than they would otherwise be if it was a human trying to manage all of that. So at the core of it, it's like optimizing organization and automating workflow.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is one of the challenges. In fact, when we were working with a lot of startups, creating content is one thing, and actually utilizing it and maximizing the whole impact is whole another thing. I was actually thinking about it today, because I started with YouTube because I graduated with computer science, and like being a programmer and being introverted and all that stuff that you were mentioning. I think this is a challenge, and the way I did it was I started this 90 days video challenge. I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna post one video every day for 90 days. And that's how I
Cool.
got comfortable with camera. And that was 3 years back,
Nice.
and then I stopped doing it because I actually, yeah, I completely stopped it when I got into consulting. I got busy with taking the clients, and I think having a proper system would have done so much at that time. And the same thing actually I found with the startups I was working with. So creating content, and then that's it. This is gonna be just one piece of content that's gonna go out, and that's it. There's nothing that's gonna happen to that again. And that's pretty much a
Yeah,
lot of companies do.
yeah. There's probably been a million different times I wanted to not do it or I wanted to quit. I've had this kind of fundamental, like, number one, like, I felt like it was just, I felt like I had to do it to get what I wanted. And then because it became part of what I was selling, like there was a compelling reason for me not to stop, because if I'm helping, I always felt like if I'm going to help people do this and preach this, I have to be doing it. But yeah, that's exactly why I built it, because like a simple analogy is like when you wouldn't go hiking if you have rocks in your shoe.
Yeah.
So we always stop and we take the rocks out. That's what all the automation was. Like I had been doing this from the very beginning. It wasn't very advanced, but I was just like, hey, this is annoying. I'm going to fix that. This is annoying. This is annoying. And yeah, like the more streamlined you can make it so that you can basically walk in, record, and have everything else happen for you, the more likely it's going to happen.
Exactly.
If you're if you're a solopreneur and you're just starting out, you have all the time in the world to sit around and make videos and be creative and all that stuff. But once things get busy, you lose all of
Mm.
that. So how are you going to maintain that? Because it's actually funny, because some of my, and it took me a while to realize this too, is like some of my clients, when I was helping them, they're like, hey, you're pretty extreme with all this. Like you're creating a lot of video. I don't
Mm.
have the time to do that. And it took a while for me to really digest that. Because there are some people that are never going to do it unless they can basically just show up, record, and then everything else happens. So what is the product that can allow that to happen? That's what's on my mind, right?
Very interesting. And so this is a bit off, but how was finding this niche a challenge for you? Because I think one of the things that I have personally faced is this shiny object syndrome. Maybe this is a very common thing, especially in my generation. It's everybody is just looking at five different things at once. So does
Yeah.
it has it happened to you, and how do you deal with this?
Yeah, it's very challenging mentally, like first and foremost. Number one, the way I dealt with it is that I felt like I had to figure it out. There was no other option. I don't want to go and do the 9 to 5 job thing. So
Mm.
like I have to figure it out. So I just kept rolling with things. And then every once in a while, when something would happen, I would take a step back and just reevaluate different things. So so like a significant point that was pretty tough was when I first started to roll out the automation stuff, I packaged it in a certain way and sold it a certain way. And there was some success, but in some ways, I would call it a failure. And
Mm.
that was pretty tough to deal with, because it was like, because I felt like there was all this demand for it. People wanted it, but it wasn't working. And so I had to really step back and be like, do I just throw it away? But that didn't make sense because so many people wanted it. They kept asking for it. But it took time to repackage it, to redo it, to reposition it, to learn from all the mistakes. And so I think there like an important skill that an entrepreneur has to have is, are you just running into a hard problem that you have to solve to make a lot of money?
Mm.
Or are you beating your head against something that isn't going to give you what you want? Do you pivot, or do you solve the hard problem that you're at? Um,
Mm.
and so I think a lot of it just comes down to managing fears, managing anxieties, continuing to do good work, following things that you're passionate about so that you don't burn out. Because I like technology, right? So I love building these things. It's fun. If it wasn't fun, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do remember driving around with my dad and
Mm.
like imagining like having really small computers and stuff, but like
Mm.
what they could do and like how we would be connected. In some ways, I do really miss some of those days because it was fun. Like it was like the Wild West. You could say it's the Wild West right now too, but there was just like there was a certain mystery to some things, and it was fun. And it was also fun not always being connected to your phone like we are now. That can be a little tiring, I think.
Yeah,
So
yeah, totally.
we're figuring some of these things out.
Totally. I think one of the reasons why I got interested in this automation stuff, for example, I was using Zapier and all. I think everybody thinks about this because we want to have more time for ourselves. And if you can place these systems, yeah, there is this saying like people fail, systems work. If you can build these
Right, right.
systems, even for your mind, even for yourself or for the business.
Yeah, for sure. It's like they get if they work, if
Yeah,
they
if they
work,
work. Yeah, yeah,
they give you your time back. There was a
yeah.
yeah, that's the important piece. Like you can waste a lot of time with automation too. Like you can have it doing a bunch of stuff that's not useful, but like when you get it to work on something that's meaningful, it's definitely valuable.
Mm, yeah, yeah. I think this, yeah, you really put it. You need to have something meaningful to do in the first place, and then you need to have something that is worth, that's high quality in the first place before you even think about automating, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm always sussing that out with people. You gotta start and create something good. And then you also have to be patient that like when you start, it's unless you're just a natural, it's not good. So you have to have the understanding that it has to be good, but that it's not going to be in the beginning so that you can fight through that and get there.
Mm, yeah. And what's your biggest challenge in last 4 years? You have been onto this journey and also help other people. What's your like main challenge that you see people face and you have faced?
Like specifically like in the video space
In
or just
business
like
in
the
general?
entrepreneur. Yeah,
Yeah, being an entrepreneur.
I think for me specifically, it's like having started over and left something that I knew really well and
Mm,
went into something that I didn't. It was a pretty big mental challenge. I think luckily there were times where I was just a little bit full of myself. And
mm,
so I didn't fully grasp everything. So I think just managing like fears, I think ultimately like managing fears, anxieties, continuing to push through, knowing that like knowing that even though I feel burnt out or whatever that feeling is, knowing that it's just a feeling, it's not so much a reality.
mm,
Like even when I woke up today, I was like, this podcast is a little earlier than I normally do it, or this or that. And they're just like these things that kind of exist in your head, but they're not real.
mm.
And so like the better you can become aware of these things and just identify them and then basically just throw them out because they're not real. That's
Yeah,
like a pretty big skill to have, I think. That
yeah,
awareness.
yeah, totally. Do you do any meditation and stuff along?
I haven't been doing it as much. I think I probably should be, but I do think like meditation and like your physical well-being are super important to that whole process. Like the more you do those things, the better your chances are of catching those moments. So I need to get back to it because I think it's something that's probably negatively affecting me at this moment by not doing it.
Yeah. It's funny because I started meditating and it's been like 4 or 5 years. And I was working with this crypto companies and Web3 companies, and we were helping them with community development and stuff. And we were saving a lot of money in crypto. Like all of our savings was in crypto. And then this one stable coin, it crashed. And all of our saving just went to nothing. And
Yeah.
that was, I think this is where I realized meditation literally saved me at that time, uh, in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like in the weirdest way, like all of the stuff that's happening around us, it's not real and it doesn't matter. But at the same time, it obviously does. We need money. We need to eat. We need it. So it obviously does. But like the more you can center yourself and just be able to look at what you need to do and just work on it and do it, like
Yeah.
that's a really powerful skill, right? There's so many people that I'm not a psychologist or I haven't done research on all this stuff, but my guess is that they're not really reaching their full potential because they probably number one don't know exactly what they want to do, and even just trying to figure that out is way too scary because they're
Mm,
attached to all of these external things. like their
Okay.
existing house, their existing car, their this or their that. And I would rather not have any of those things and just be able to navigate life and
Mm.
do the things that are the most important. And so I think that's where, whether it's meditation or whatever your hack is, being able to do that, I think is priceless, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. So yeah, if people want to learn more about what you do and how they can join you, what can be the way to connect with you?
Yeah. If you go to Google and you type Stephen G. Pope, like a bunch of my stuff's going to come up. It's just going to send you to like all these different platforms where there's these videos of me talking about stuff. I think there's
Mm.
better, like the best places in the community, the school community, the content academy. And if you go to academy.sgplabs.com, it'll redirect you there. And that's like a cool place to, if you want to make an impact on the world, like that's a good place to go. And we've got a lot of tools and resources to help frame you and help you get you going. Or if you're pretty advanced already, there's some really advanced tools in there to help you scale out your video creation and distribution and stuff. That's probably the best place. And I'm active there. I'm always responding and helping people out. And you can contact me directly right from there.
Yeah. Perfect. I think Content Academy is one of the most active communities that I'm seeing on school. Like I was looking
Really
at a lot
cool.
of communities. Yeah, I was observing a lot of communities and the way people are responding and naturally being supportive to each other. That was very interesting. You were saying you are not a community builder kind of person, but I think you have this North Star so people can exactly look at where they are heading to and just collaborating with each other.
Yeah, I guess that's the hardest part, right? Because I think everyone talks about mission and vision. It's like business community, probably 101. But like talking about it all the time and keeping it top of mind and living by it and those values is probably harder. It's pretty hard. And I think helping people tap into something a little bit deeper than just making money or making a video, like who really wants to make a video? I don't really want to make a video. Like that's not,
Mm,
it's not like it's not my passion to make a video, right? I just want to help people. So getting to tap into something a little more interesting. So that maybe, and I don't want to act like I've cracked the code either. This is still,
yeah, it's
it's
an
the first
ongoing.
time that I've had something this successful. So I'm just gonna thank everybody for being engaged and helping me build it out. Really. So
Yeah, yeah. Cool. It was
this is
really wonderful talking to you.
yeah, this is awesome. This is fun, man. I love talking about this stuff. I feel like we talk about video and automation, and I love doing those things, but like at the core, like we're all just humans trying to make an impact with people. And so like some of these most fundamental things around fear, anxiety, mission and vision, community, they're pretty
Yeah,
interesting and important things. So it's fun to dive into all of the different nuances and where it goes.
yeah, exactly. I think people emphasize a lot on tactics. I think this is where we see on the surface anyways. We are like, okay, we are gonna use this funnel and we are gonna make this much money. But then you get into
Yeah,
this and then you see there is a lot of things that are deeper. It's a lot, the
it's
way I see it is it's a lot of healing too. It's like you are understanding about yourself and so much.
yeah, and when it comes to funnels too, I think like people are so scattered and there's this kind of aura around the internet right now that you can make instant fast money, but I think a lot of that kind of money making is like preying on the most vulnerable people that are like in a moment of pain right now, and it's just trying to reach that person and sell them something, reach that person and sell them something. And how can you do that? I think what's interesting about organic content and community building, whether it's on school or some other platform, if there's like a mission and vision behind it and people consume a lot more of your information, it's a much different kind of connection than like that direct response kind of marketing that people run on paid ads and stuff like that. And it probably doesn't really matter if you have a good mission and vision and like a sense of community. It probably doesn't really matter what community platform you're really on. You could probably make it
Yeah,
work anywhere. It could be in Slack or in Discord or wherever it is. Surely
yeah,
those platforms can make it easier to make it happen because it's just the easier it is, the more likely people are to do it. But having a cool place, I think, is cool. And you don't have to have a million people in there either. It's just
yeah.
a small group of people can be very powerful.
Exactly. That Kevin Kelly's quote, it's like you don't need million followers, thousand true fans. I think it was really eye-opening for me when I first heard it. I think for a lot of people, it's actually groundbreaking. It's simple, but even thinking in this term, especially when there is so much noise out there, everybody's selling courses about million followers. There is nothing wrong in million followers, but I think that's a wrong
Right.
KPI to track in the first place.
Yeah, and it gets you on a hamster wheel, I think.
Yeah.
And you probably grow a lot faster if you're just a little bit more genuine and you're not trying to like, yeah, it's just those metrics are just hard to, it's just like try to make an impact. Like, how can you really make an impact? It might be a little bit slower because, or it might be a little bit slower in the beginning because to make an impact on somebody means you make a meaningful change. So
Yeah.
like, how are you going to, if nobody knows who you are and you don't have a lot of experience, like making a real big impact on people takes a little bit of research.
Yeah.
It's probably not that hard to do, but to make an impact on somebody, you have to know what they care about and you have to be able to make some sort of change with them. So like figuring out what that formula is going to take a little bit of thoughtful time. And if you're out there doing a bunch of tactical things to manufacture numbers, like you're probably not really learning what the true impact is. Like you're just
Yeah.
there. And I think there's only a few people in this world that can even do that kind of thing. Like hack algorithms, do this, do that, like in the weeds of hacking things all the time.
Mm.
Like most people, I don't think they can do that day to day. That's a special, like, certain mind. And if you can do that, bless you. But like,
Mm.
that's a special personality type that does that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah. It makes more sense to me because I have been like in those times where I was chasing all these courses where I could learn something, I can sell it to someone else, and then I can make this much money.
Yeah,
That's totally a Ponzi sort of place.
it is a Ponzi scheme. Yeah.
Yeah, but very interesting. And when you start up, I think it's very easy to fall into that. It just feels real. It just feels like that can actually happen only once you start getting deeper into the business, and then you understand what it's gonna take for real.
Yeah. So if you could have that awareness from the beginning, and I think there are certain personalities out there that have this, that's a special skill. They have that center where they don't fall into all those traps, and bless those people
Mm,
too, because that's a really cool skill to have, is like your own core center where you're not distracted by all of that thing and you're just going to build your own little thing. And that's really cool. So there's the people that can hack things really well. There's the people that just have this rock solid center. And then most of us are in the middle here trying to figure
yeah,
it out. And so if you could just realize that, hey, it's better just to have a good center and figure it out and make an impact on people, you're going to move probably a lot faster you probably will move faster, but it might feel a little slower to start.
yeah, yeah. And that's very true. It's actually, yeah, sometimes I feel having this narrow, like this focus, it's definitely a God gift in so many ways.
Yeah, I think so.
And and
I think we can
yeah,
get it if we trust ourselves a little more.
yeah, yeah. And for me, I
You
think
have,
I personally, consciously, I have to work on this thing. So
yeah,
it's
me
definitely
too.
one
Me
of the
too.
I think as a digital entrepreneurs, it's also a thing because you have a lot of interesting things going on. It's not like nothing is. A lot of nice things are happening around us. A lot of good ideas are genuinely there. It's just you
Right.
need to pick yours.
And you probably have to work on it deeper than you thought.
Yeah.
Like you always feel, I don't know how many times I felt like I was there.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden I was like, whoa, I'm so far. Like having a good product that really is good, it doesn't just come like that. Maybe for a couple rare people it has, but I don't think for most people.
Yeah. Yeah. It does take a lot of iterations and a lot of feedback in a way from the market, and you need to be there in the market to actually listen to that.
Yeah, like I
Cool.
couldn't have gotten to where I was now without what I would call a pretty big failure. And that's a good lesson as well too, is that for the people that are afraid to even try, like your product is never as good as it could be tomorrow. Like your
Yeah.
product's going to be better a year from now, but you can't wait for that to happen. You got to sell it now.
Yeah.
And whatever bad qualities it has, you have to remedy those things and make good on them, and then improve
Mm.
it. And then that next time you sell it, it's going to be better. And so it's hard to pull that together sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. We also built our software. We got some good proposals, but we thought, okay, we are gonna stick to that. And then I completely changed the whole trajectory of my things, and then all the clients left from that product because of not giving attention to that product. So a lot of learning, of course, comes from it.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is like sometimes people can launch too many products. It's because you feel like you got this one going, so let's launch the next one, but then you
Yeah.
really didn't have it. You didn't really have it, and now your attention's over
Mm.
here, and then this one decays,
Yeah.
and now you're basically starting over again.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. A lot of lessons actually, but it's in the end, it's really a fun journey to be an entrepreneur. Like helping other people. That's probably in the end, like this is what you feel about this, right?
Yeah. I think it's like to me, it's just more of a way of living. You're relying on yourself. You're helping people.
Yeah.
And then me specifically, I'm an engineer. I like to build products. So building things and solving problems is fun for me specifically. But it seems to be it's just like a modern way of living life at its core. I don't know if it's freedom exactly. I think we all have freedom in our own way. Like we just choose to exercise it or not. So you can be free living, doing a 9 to 5 if that's what you want
Yeah.
to do. So you don't have to be an entrepreneur to be free. But to me, that's what feeling free is, like having that autonomy to do what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I certainly have to do things that I don't want to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As an entrepreneur.
A lot of things. Yeah.
This was awesome, man.
Cool. Cool. It was really wonderful. And definitely I learn a lot from you. Definitely
Yeah, me
I'll
too. Me too.
So this was the entire conversation, and I couldn't capture a lot of this because video was cracky, and I actually stopped to pay for my Zoom subscription in the middle of the conversation. But I hope you learn a lot from this video. If you are working on video automation and video creation, go check out Content Academy, amazing place. And if you are building an online community around your product and your mission, go check out Digital Lifestyle Tribe, and I'll see you in the next video.